next. Full panel here with me now. Dr. Nicolai is a professor at Pepperdine University. She is the national political reporter for The Hill, Julia Manchester. Chris Stirewalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. And Carla Sands, former ambassador to Denmark and Greenland in the first Trump administration. Happy Friday. Hello to you all. Thanks for being here. This one, Carla, is splitting alongside, and Doctor, sort of partisan lines, right? We have the reaction from the left. We have the reaction from the right. Set that aside for a second, because at the end of the day, this is our strongest ally in the Middle East and a state sponsor of terrorism that chants death to America, and a big decision for the president. You know him. You just, I believe we're sort of speaking on this topic overseas. Where do you think he is tonight, given what we heard from him today?
I do think this is the most consequential decision that he'll make perhaps in his entire presidency. It's going to have big consequences for the U.S., but for the globe, either way he goes. He has said unequivocally, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So I think that he's going to try to get a diplomatic solution. My hope and prayer is that he does get there. But if there's no diplomatic solution, he's going to make sure they cannot have a bomb.
And that's the big comma but, is then how do you take care of that?
And that's what will he do? We have the B-2 bombers, the B-52s. They're ready with the bunker busters. There in Diego Garcia. We'll see what happens.
You break it, you buy it. You know, America is not happy with these forever wars. Remember how we rode into Afghanistan, how we rode into Iraq? There are a number of folks, including the president's base, that are not fans of a military intervention in Iran. And so he has some convincing to do. I would imagine that's part of the reason why he extended his deadline to Iran for up to a couple weeks. But, you know, listen, you know, this is serious business. This could reshape the Middle East. And, you know, we've been here before. You know, Prime Minister Netanyahu has said now for decades that Iran has been very close to forming a nuclear weapon, and they have not. And so what makes this moment any different than those previous moments? You know, and add to that the fact that Tulsi Gabbard is you know, her work as the director of national intelligence is really being called to question.
Yeah, there's a big sort of divide now within the administration. Even the president coming out today basically saying, no, Tulsi Gabbard is wrong. The White House is trying to push back on that, Julia. In any event, it's just part of the backdrop for the president tonight.
It is, and we saw President Trump on the ground in New Jersey making those comments, or on his way to New Jersey, I should say, making those comments today and addressing the fact that, yes, he was against the Iraq war and the U.S. invasion of Iraq. He says it's different this time. The issue, though, is that we're hearing two different things. We're hearing from the intelligence community, from Tulsi Gabbard, look, Iran is not close to building a nuclear weapon, but President Trump has suggested, well, maybe they are a little closer, so we don't really know, I think, which side to believe at this point. It's mixed messaging.
Have you ever seen a man engage in selective listening? I think that perhaps the ladies on the panel could attest that this is a problem of the male part of the species. I think Donald Trump is going to hear what he wants to hear and not hear what he doesn't want to hear. And right now, if he feels like he wants to light him up in Iran, he's going to hear the people around him, like the CIA director, who are saying, we got to go. And he's not going to hear Tulsi Gabbard. If he changes his mind and thinks that that's not really what he wants to do, lo and behold, I bet Tulsi Gabbard's stock goes way up.
That's the big question for the president. The big win, Nicolai, was the Ninth Circuit. Trump rails against the Ninth Circuit out west, and they told him, you know what, you can nationalize you could federalize the National Guard there. I just heard a Democrat on this show basically side with that. Where does your side go from here?
Well, I think this is going to be incredibly destabilizing for the economy in Los Angeles, across the state of California. We're seeing the farmers are feeling that. But we're also hearing the president say, hey, farmers, I feel your pain. You know, maybe we should back off, you know, from ICE raids on farms, ICE raids on hotel workers. And so this is a region of the country that is still recovering from the LA wildfires. We've heard the mayor and the governor speak to that.
That's the argument in part that Gavin Newsom is making. Here was the president today, Carla, on what Nicolai is talking about farms.
We're looking at doing something where, in the case of good, reputable farmers, they can take responsibility for the people that they hire and let them have responsibility, because we can't put the farms out of business.
I'm going, okay, what does that look like?
Well, so the farmers do have something called the Bracero program in California, throughout the country, where temporary workers can come in and work the farms, and then they go home at the end of the season. So there's mechanisms already in place to bring in legal workers that are temporary to these farms. Now, if there are people that came in with not in that program, I think they need to go home.
This is sort of the balance for the president right now here.
Absolutely, and I think it comes as we've seen a number of new polls showing a mixed reaction to the president's, actions on immigration and really what's that's looking like. I think the economic part of this is playing into that. We're seeing, I think, a mixed reaction from Americans about how they feel about President Trump's immigration policies. It's something that he was able to campaign on, but maybe Americans are, switching their minds.
What's he going to do here?
I don't know, but for 45 years in this country, we've needed an actual immigration policy. We don't have one. And every successive administration, by whim, listening to the president of the United States saying, maybe I'll let you do this. I just thought about Barack Obama and the Dreamers and waving a magic wand and letting these people in and those people out. It's a preposterous way to run a country. And the people who work in that building back there should have long ago addressed this issue, but certainly they need to do it now.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time here on a Friday. Still to come here on the Hill, a little thing we call Friday Night Unfiltered. The key images of the week. Steyerwalt and I on the other side. Still to come here on News Nation. Elizabeth Vargas reports. She